Hello everybody and welcome back to more political chatter. In this video we will be talking about the Iowa caucus, the 2024 Republican Iowa caucus, and how it is rapidly approaching. It will take place on January, it, is it January 15th, I think? Yeah, January 15th, which is 14 days, 2 weeks that Iowa caucus will take place. So, um, it is the first contest of these this Republican primary, and of course, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, the four first states in the primary calendar, always are the most influential. It shows momentum for a campaign. If a campaign is doing terrible in these early states, then they really don't have a path to victory when like early Tuesday and other big primary days when many contests are held on the same day. They're going to do better in those contests. If they do better, they have a bunch of momentum in these early contests. If they pull out unexpected victories, and vice versa. If they had all this momentum nationally, but they did not perform well, as we have seen, in 2020, 2016, some candidates have the momentum nationally, but when voting actually happens, they lose all of that momentum because they can't pull out a win, or they fall below expectations. So, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, so important, but the most important is Iowa, the Iowa caucuses, because they are the first. They are the first contest, ahead of New Hampshire, ahead of South Carolina, ahead of Nevada, ahead of all the other states. So right now, Donald Trump leads, as he does in literally every state poll in this election cycle. As of now, if everything goes as planned, he is on track to win every single state in the primary, which is absolutely insane because just a few months ago, not a few, quite a few now, months ago, it was looking like DeSantis. Ron DeSantis was actually the favorite to be the nominee. And now we're seeing him at an average of 18.6% in Iowa, which was a state that he was supposed to do very well in. But right now, Donald Trump leads with over half of the vote, 51.3%. Among um, 6 candidates, Donald Trump leads with over half. If it was equal, he'd have 18%. But that just shows you how dominant he is in this primary right now. Ron DeSantis currently is in second on average in polls with 18.6%. Nikki Haley very close to DeSantis with 16.1%. She has seen lots of growth in her campaign, as you can see. Next is Vivek. Now we fall into the three very minor candidates. Vivek Ramaswamy at only 5.9%. Chris Christie at only 3.7%, which is honestly good because he has not been to the state of Iowa this cycle once. He has been to New Hampshire dozens of times. Not Iowa a single time. He does not care about Iowa. And Asa Hutchinson, good old Asa, at 0.7%, can't manage to pull above a point. So, as you can see, that is a Trump plus 32.7 lead ahead of DeSantis. Absolutely dominant. I mean, we're talking about this primary as if it's even competitive. But then, when you look at the very first state, Iowa, with all of these candidates pouring tens of millions of dollars into this race, and all they could come up with is a Trump plus 32% lead, nothing less, nothing more. So, the closest they got was 23, but that's extremely low. I don't know how it's 23. From Trafalgar. That's definitely an outlier, but I mean, Trump is just so dominant in this race. It's not even like it's close. So with 2 weeks out, DeSantis is really not feeling good about this because DeSantis has been in this race for months now. He could have dropped out a while ago, right? When his poll numbers started to go down, when they sunk completely to their lowest possible point, he could probably go lower, honestly. He could have dropped out, but he was really and still is really betting on a pretty good performance in Iowa. Maybe he could eke out some surprise. And it really does make sense. Looking back at Iowa's performance, Donald Trump in the 2016 primary was dominating nationwide. He was doing amazing. He was looking like he was unstoppable. Additionally, he was leading in polls in Iowa, New Hampshire, and I'm sure Nevada and South Carolina too, and most other state polls. But Ted Cruz, a very more traditional conservative, how do I, what I mean? Not like how Donald Trump, as conservative as Donald Trump, obviously, but without all that baggage. Again, a traditional conservative is what they are called. That is the branch of the party that was supporting Ted Cruz. They didn't like Trump because of all of this new populist message that he was giving off. So even though polls were expected for Trump to win, Ted Cruz actually won. And it shows you the electorate of Iowa. They are traditional conservatives. That's why they voted for Ted Cruz. Not to mind you, in 2012, there was yet another surprise, and someone just like Ted Cruz, Rick Santorum, a former senator from Pennsylvania, was able to beat Mitt Romney, who is a more moderate, more liberal Republican, not like Trump, not like a populist, but still not like a traditional conservative like, who do you know, Rick Santorum is. Rick Santorum absolutely represented the same branch of the party that Ted Cruz did. Again, in 2008, Mike Huckabee, even though, whatever, Mike Huckabee actually pulled out a very surprise win in Iowa in 2008 because he ran on a social, very traditional, very conservative message. And that is those three people, a mix of Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, and Ted Cruz, a mix of those three is the campaign that DeSantis is running. He is trying to run a very socially conservative campaign like Mike Huckabee did in 2008, and he is doing this in a not anti-populist, but definitely not buying into that populist message as Trump does, and is returning to traditional roots, which is quite literally what Ted Cruz was, and Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee, whatever, they were all running on this traditional conservative platform. So Iowa has a very strong record in recent history of one, pulling out surprise wins for candidates who were not expected to win. Mike Huckabee was not expected to win in 2008. Rick Santorum was like in fourth or something on the caucus state polls, and he won. And Ted Cruz was not expected to win either in 2016. So Iowa has a record of voting or caucusing, or making unexpected winners. Number one, and of electing traditional conservative Republicans. I mean, looking at recent history, it's not like people like Donald Trump who win the state of Iowa, and then you go to New Hampshire. It's weird how the roles have flipped in 2024 because while Iowa went to Ted Cruz, New Hampshire was a very safe Trump state. In fact, Ted Cruz got only 11%. John Kasich received second with 15%, 20 points behind Donald Trump. I mean, this primary in 2024 is actually going to be closer than the one in 2016 in New Hampshire, which is very, very interesting to see. But it just shows you. You think that this is a traditional conservative state, New Hampshire? Absolutely not. Iowa voted 27 to 24 for Ted Cruz. Iowa voted for Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, and Ted Cruz. New Hampshire voted for, if I am remembering correctly, now my history is. Here, we'll just look. I know Mitt Romney won in 2012, and yeah, and that's what I thought. It was John McCain who actually won in 2008. The winner of Iowa has never, in 2008, 2012, 2016, the three primaries that matter, Iowa has never voted for the same person that New Hampshire does. And that's for a reason. They are two vastly different states. So while in Iowa it was for Ted Cruz, in New Hampshire it's Donald Trump because it was a more, or it is a more populist, libertarian, free-minded, independent state who is more likely to vote for an anti-establishment figure like Donald Trump. But now, for whatever reason, the tides have completely turned, and New Hampshire is actually the close state, while Iowa, you can see here, Donald Trump absolutely dominates. So clearly, what does this all mean? It means that Trump changed voters' minds while he was in office, and he has taken on the role of the of this conservative fighter president, and it almost goes religiously. I mean, he has supporters, especially in a state like Iowa, where voters are fueled to caucus for someone because of their evangelical Christian faith. Donald Trump has almost taken on this kind of religious duty. At least this is what these voters think, to be president. I mean, they view him and want to vote for him in a very spiritual way, at least from what I've seen in videos and whatever. So Donald Trump has completely captivated this Christian base while they cared about policy before and stuff like that. Voting for Ted Cruz, voted for Mike Huckabee because of his social morals. Voted for Rick Santorum. Don't even know why they voted for Rick Santorum. While they did that in the past, now all that matters is Trump, and they view him. Voters view him now in a much, much different way, and the state of this race has totally changed from a year like 2016 or 2012 or 2008. I mean, when you look at this, they are holding on to their deep conservative values. Polls like this show you why Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, Ted Cruz won in those years. Because, I mean, banning medical procedures to change a child's gender. Look at that. And this shows you the difference between Iowa and New Hampshire, too. 91% of Republican likely caucus goers in Iowa say, yes, we need to ban that. While only 77% in New Hampshire. New Hampshire voters are much more moderate this time around. And that adds to prove why Trump was able to win New Hampshire but lose Iowa in 2016, because in that race, he was definitely viewed as one of the more moderate candidates in the race because he wasn't a traditional conservative like others, like Ted Cruz. In New Hampshire is naturally a more moderate liberal state, even among Republicans. However, this time around, he is absolutely viewed by, through voters, as the most conservative, as the most radical extremist in the race, while they view people like Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie as more moderate. But now, the more conservative voters in Iowa are preferring Trump because they view him as the most conservative candidate in the race. Abortion, this one, there is a stark difference. This is why people like Nikki Haley are running on a very moderate message when it comes to abortion. Legal in all / most cases, Iowa, abortion. Iowa, only 26% of Republicans say yes. New Hampshire, more than 50%, 57. That is almost double the number in Iowa. And then illegal is just the opposite. Want GOP nominee who deport millions of undocumented immigrants. Iowa, yeah, there's not much difference there, whatever. So, state of the race right now, is Trump has taken on this new role in this caucus, and he should absolutely, as of now, with 2 weeks to go, cruise to a big win in Iowa. That's what I'm predicting. I mean, this many polls, it's not like this many polls can be wrong, especially what we're seeing on the national level. And the rise of Haley only hurts Trump. But this is very um, influential and significant in the DeSantis and Haley campaigns because Haley needs to get second in Iowa to have a shot in New Hampshire, because amazingly she actually does have a shot in New Hampshire, but DeSantis is holding her back. I mean, even if it's just a point difference, DeSantis getting second and Haley getting third definitely hurts Haley a lot going into New Hampshire. She needs this momentum in Iowa to carry on into New Hampshire, and you can't really do that if you place third in Iowa. Now, if she gets second, even if it's only a point over DeSantis, then she has a shot in New Hampshire. Even if it's not a good number, even if it's only 17%, at least she got second, and she completely assumes this role of Trump's main challenger. Then you'll see the Chris Christie support in New Hampshire move on over to Haley. Then you'll see the DeSantis support in New Hampshire move on over to Haley. So she needs to get second in Iowa, because then the question still remains, who is the main Trump challenger, and that anti-Trump vote in New Hampshire will continue to be fractured. So it's very important for the DeSantis and Haley campaigns. If DeSantis gets third, he definitely drops out. Looking at his numbers in New Hampshire, in South Carolina, it only gets worse. I think that Haley will continue even if she gets third. Definitely will continue if she gets second. Ramaswamy probably stays in until New Hampshire. I'm saying because I think he has hopes in New Hampshire. Christie obviously stays in until New Hampshire. Asa probably drops out. He might just stay in until the convention, though, because he spent a bunch of money, he said, on getting on the ballot in all these states. So that's the state of the race right now. 2 weeks to go. Let's do it. Thank you all for watching. I hope to see you all next time.